Greetings, Vault Hunters all across the 6 galaxies. Welcome to the Bordercast. We are live at our usual time, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Mitsu.
And I'm Tessichka, coming to you every week to break down all things Borderlands.
Pearlescence, the hottest of hot button issues. Will they return? Should they?
Plus, Endgame discussion part 2. We talked a great deal about how Endgame can be enjoyed, but what exactly is Endgame? Is it just farming? Can it be something more? We're going to break it down with the help of our very special guest, making his first appearance ever on the show, Psychotic Wolf. Welcome.
Yay!
Hey, everyone.
What's up, bud?
Thank
Can we short that down? Can we just call you Wolf?
Wolf? Psychotic Wolf? What do you prefer?
Yeah.
Just call me Wolf.
Wolf is perfect then. Excellent.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
it's so good to have you. Thank you for coming on the show. We've been looking forward to having you on for some time now. I noticed you've been very active in chat. You've been a very positive person. I know you helped me out quite a bit when I was level 57 and working on trying to get myself towards Mayhem 10. It was so much fun to play with you. We played very late overnight Borderlands about a month ago, I want to say now, on a Friday. It was a very long Friday for me. I met a lot of new people in the community, and you and your community was very warm and accepting. And so I thank you, and I'm glad that we could have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. And that Friday night was a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it again.
As always, we wanted to take a minute to thank all of our new listeners on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, those watching live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Steam, or later on the VOD on YouTube. If you're enjoying the program, we would love for you to give us a big ol' like, follow, or favorite, because doing so guarantees citizenship. Pandoran citizenship. Not entirely sure you want to be a citizen of Pandora, but, you know, whatever.
You do. Just trust us. You do. Guardian Takedown is out now. Borderlands Legendary Collection on Switch, released May 29th, and is super, super, super awesome, according to Mitsu and everybody I know that has a Switch. You guys are rock stars. Enjoy it. Seriously. DLC 3, Bounty of Blood, has been so much fun to play. No hotfixes applied this week because they're just letting us chill with all the awesome that's in the game currently. The community seems really happy with where we're at the moment. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, it's in a really good place. Lots of stuff to do. A lot of gear to farm, and even there's an upcoming community event. So can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, let's break this down real quick. First, I just wanted to talk about no hotfixes applied this week. They made mention that they're saving it for a patch. And while I was playing today, in the back of my mind, I didn't actually bring this up on stream, but it was kind of sitting there because people were mentioning, hey, there was no hotfix. What's going on? It seems like they're gearing up for something big. And usually this happens before a really big patch or a new event. And I bumped into Maurice today and I was like, oh, Maurice, I miss you. You don't have anything for me right now. Can you give me something to do? I love you. Not that I didn't have things to do. I just like talking to and with Maurice because he's awesome. Like, so do you think an event is perhaps on the horizon?
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, nothing has been hinted anywhere. I mean, it would be awesome. I feel like I still have plenty to do and plenty to kind of challenge myself with between the Guardian Takedown and the DLC, and trying to sort of do the DLC on all the characters, because now, so like my number of characters, because I keep getting the characters from Ultimate Vault Hunter, which is so fun to try them and play them, and I keep taking them into places and like trying to do things with them, and so I run through the DLC with them because why not? It's beautiful. And I run through Guardian Takedown with them, and sometimes I'm successful and other times less so, but that just means I keep doing that content, and I always have stuff to do, and it's always in a slightly different way because these builds are so different from each other and so fun. Definitely you guys want to check out Ultimate Vault Hunter later this week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I recommend it. It's a good one. Yeah, so I feel like there's still plenty of meat in the game currently, like fresh meat kind of, but an event would be really, really fun. So, you know, maybe, hopefully.
I don't know. This is me just kind of like reading and being a child of history with this one. The content cycle has always been DLC, a little bit of time, big event goes on for about a month, unless it was the Valentine's Day event, which I think was only 2 weeks. which was fine. It was what it needed to be. Although some people still want more wedding invitations. We can talk about that another time because it was a very good gun. And then it was Guardian or a takedown, whether it be Maliwan or Guardian takedown now. So we're looking down the barrel perhaps of another takedown, probably sometime in August, if I'm reading the room correctly. And then DLC probably September, if I had to take a guess. That's just my personal feelings on the subject, just reading how they've set everything up. Now, of course, COVID throws everything for a loop. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. Maybe we wind up getting it in October, and September winds up being where a takedown happens. But that's just my guess. So,
well, I think right now with this big upcoming patch, they introduced a few little things, like when it comes to the M10 scaling, that has messed a few things up. So I'm thinking that those things can't be fixed via hotfix. So I think that's all going to be done via a big patch. And of course, hopefully we can see a little bit more gun balancing, so we can get a lot more fun with more guns too.
Yeah. As it is, the scaling right now is in such a good place. I still would like to see a few more things come out of the woodwork or perhaps receive a little bit of love. I can say, playing Flak today, and this will kind of segue us into this past week, I got a Hellshock to drop at level 50. I want to say it was 56, 57, maybe even as early as 54. And it carried me all the way to 60 and then maybe to like Mayhem 6. The Hellshock is just so strong. It's such a strong gun. And it's great. It feels great. It's the jack of all trades. It gets shock damage because most enemies have shields. Wonderful. And has fire damage. Most enemies are weak to fire unless you're fighting against robots, and that's only really in Handsome Jack's DLC. You don't have to worry about it as much. Or Moxie's DLC, I should say, because it is her heist of Handsome Jack's casino. Regardless, it's the jack of all trades gun. It's your double penetrating unkempt Herald, and I know we've mentioned that a few times, but I can't emphasize enough that if you're listening, you don't have a Hellshock yet, just go and get one. It just does so much work for you. And then afterwards, you can get a little bit more specialized with what you're looking for. Complex route. So
Beacon, flipper.
Beacon.
Yeah, there's a fun little trick, Mitsu, that I was watching you play today. That I'm gonna teach you one little trick with the Hellshock. You can leave it in shock, and you're swapping to fire with your weapon swap, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have to shoot the ground. It'll bounce off the ground and swap elements and hit. So you can keep it on shock, and if you're gonna do fire, just shoot the ground and it bounces and goes fire.
Oh.
So that does work that way, because I've noticed when it reflects off of a surface, the color of the projectile changes to the other color. So shock will change to fire and vice versa. I wasn't sure if that was like something not intended and everybody just like didn't call them on it, so I didn't want to say anything, or if it legitimately actually worked that way.
Yeah, it worked. It's been like that since the beginning.
That's amazing. And insane. Wow.
Cass, did you get a beacon?
I have several beacons, yes.
Oh my God.
I've had beacons drop for my main character a couple of times, and the first time it dropped, I was kind of like, what is this? It reminds me kind of a Hellshock, sort of, a little bit. Is it good? And my chat was like, yes, you want this gun. Use it now. It was really funny. They literally, a whole chat full of people speaking in that voice. Seriously, though, it's a really, really good gun. People have done builds around it, and I can see why. It's like the DLC Hellshock with some boosts, some benefits. So I recommend checking it out if you get one to drop. I have a couple of different builds from our awesome Ultimate Vault Hunters that all incorporate the beacon. So it's not just me that likes it, and my chat.
Yeah, no, there's so many different ones out there. Now that my Flak is basically able to do some things on Mayhem 10, I'm looking forward to going around and farming. Obviously, Complex Root is on my to-do. I'm trying to think of like a couple other guns that are out there. Wolf, what's like another good gun that you would want like you feel is necessary for a Flak to have, more or less?
A reflux.
Reflux. Why the reflux?
It's kind of like the upgraded version of a brainstormer, and if you get all those ASCs going on with a Flak, you're going to do a lot of damage. So I was using one of Moxie's, it's called the 5G Flak, and it's using a reflux, and I did the Guardian takedown on scaled version, and I didn't have to switch my gun. I just had to reflux the whole way through. It was amazing.
Nice.
That's really
Wow.
cool. Wow. What element is it?
It's a corrosive, but also the tendrils. So it works just like a brainstormer. So it does the tendrils when there's multiple mobs around. But what is also it's also doing is doing corrosive and shock.
And shock?
It's almost like they took a copy of the brainstormer, they added the corrosive to it, but they didn't remove the shock when it comes to the tendrils.
Wow.
I wonder if that's working as intended.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble, and I want everybody to take full advantage of this weapon, but I'm processing this in my brain right now, and when I think reflux, corrosive makes sense as the element, right?
Yeah.
But shock, where does shock come in? Unless it's supposed to be like the tsunami, just a different kind of tsunami. In which case, all right, I'm just going to shut up now and not... I don't want them to nerf it, because apparently...
And go farm.
Yeah, go farm. Yeah. Woo, for those listening at home, who might not know, where can you get a reflux?
You can get to Genevieve in Eden 6.
Okay. It's not a particularly difficult farm. Just you have to run there, but that's about it.
Yeah, but it's
Pretty
a
much,
pretty
yeah.
run. It's fine.
It is, yeah. The family jewel is a fun one to kind of mosey around. Plus, there's a rare spawn on the way, isn't there?
Maximilian, yes.
Yes. Who's just a little annoying to fight because he has like bullet reflection mechanics because he spins his arms in front of you. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're by all means.
I was just gonna ask if you had like a favorite weapon right now from the DLC, Psychotic Wolf, that like it dropped for you and you've been using it and you're just like, this is the best gun ever.
So right now, out of my builds, I have 2 builds that I have done solo, True Takedown, and one of them uses the flipper. I'm using the shock corrosive flipper. My build is called Bear Force 1. By the way, I only do Mo's builds. So she's kind of a hybrid of going in of Iron Bear and out of Iron Bear. But when I'm out of Iron Bear, it's the flipper with consecutive hits and a pearl. And oh my gosh, it just destroys.
Nice.
Oh my god.
That's really awesome. I had just started playing Mo's. Triple G gave me a really, really boss build for her, and I haven't played her enough. I've been like so busy doing other things that I played her a lot for a couple of days, and then I moved on to my other characters because I had to work on my main, I had to work on my Zane, I had to work on all these things, and now I miss Mo's. So I want to spend some more time with her. I need to watch some of your videos and streams just to learn what to do.
The big one that everyone talks about and everyone loves to play, her name is Slam Cannon.
Oh. So why Slam Cannon? Like, I'm just curious.
All right, so a few things. So everyone knows about the cut purse launch pad, right? So the rockets, when you slam, trigger the cut purse. Mm-hmm. But I actually found out. So the way that I wanted to do was when the cartel event came out, they introduced that one shield anointment. When on shield break, your next shot is an amp shot, and it's all based on your shield size. Mm-hmm. Mose, being the tactical woman that she can be, and she can increase her shield size with one of her talents called Phalanx Doctrine. I can increase that amp shot exponentially based on how many people I kill. So the goal of that whole entire build was destroy my shield, shoot something that does a buttload of damage with an amp shot, and just see everything die, and then rinse and repeat. Now, the biggest issue was how was I going to break my shield? And I found out that the launch pad inherits melee damage. So I'm actually using a frozen snowshoe, and the frozen snowshoe on slide, when you slide into someone, it breaks your shield, and then it heals you and does cryo damage. The launch pad triggers that slide. So from afar, I'm slamming, the launch pad is breaking my shield, freezing everybody, I'm getting my amp shot, and I just destroy everybody. And it's great in the Guardian takedown, especially when you're charging the crystals, because I freeze everything outside of the square, and then I kill them with a rocket shot.
Wow, that sounds like a blast.
All right. Yeah. Okay. There's a place that you need to explain this more in depth. We're going to have a conversation about that at some point, just not right now, because I don't want to put you on the spot in the off chance you say no, but I think you already know the question. That being said, I really want to find out more about that at some point, because that's friggin' wild. But yeah, just a quick rundown. What did you do this week in Borderlands, Wolf? Like, what were you doing?
So I was finishing off a couple builds. One is a melee mouse, which is pretty fun using a face puncher. I'm also using that brand new Stinger shield from the Guardian Takedown. And I'm using an interesting little feature. So I'm using a knife drain, part of my artifact, and I'm using the Bloodletter artifact. So if those who don't know what a Bloodletter does, it takes all heals and puts them into my shield. So when my shield breaks, I'm doing a melee Nova, and then the melee Nova hits people and heals my shield back to max. So I can consistently break my shield and do the Nova, and also regenerate my Nova with the regenerate my shields with the face puncher, because that's melee damage, and the knife drain is healing that. Now, the biggest issue was my HP pool, but what I found out is on normal regeneration on a class mod and an artifact will heal your shield and your HP. So I kind of just have to stall to let my HP build up so I can let my shield break again.
Wow.
Your builds have so many different components to them. Because you're talking about the cut purse before, and you have to do a sequence of events. And again, you're talking about how you have to do a very specific sequence of events to make this build work. But when it does, it just kills. Yep. And that just blows my mind. Because what is it? Chat was literally like, Mitsu's brain's about to explode. Hell yeah, it's about to explode. Are you kidding me? Like the amount of steps that you have to go through to make it work, but when you do them all properly in sequence, it just works. It just works.
That's right. And the fun part that I try to do with my builds is I don't try to specify a specific gun. I think when it comes to, if you can make like the shield, artifact, class mod all work together, and then when you provide it to the community, you can say, guys, you can use any gun that you want to use with this. Just make sure you have these pieces of gear on you. So it becomes a versatile build.
That's good. That's really good, because it means if somebody can't get that lucky drop that they need, that they can at least put in something as a stopgap until you can get what you need, which is why I emphasize that question a lot. And Liz asked that question a lot on Ultimate Vault Hunters, because it's important to recognize that people can't always get the gear that they want right away. So a truly spectacular build will have some wiggle room, at least when you're trying to level that build up and work through the mayhem levels, to be able to work even if you don't have all of the prime components. So it's good to see. So
yeah, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
What have you been up to this week? Just working on your flak, Mitsu?
Oh, yeah. Wolf was in a little bit earlier, so he saw that character's dumb. Like the only problem I've found with Flak is Flak has very little in the way of survivability. They only have innate regeneration capabilities. There's no vampirism, so shooting a target doesn't give you health back. And the amount of health regen you have is nice, but unless you're hiding in fadeaway, which is something we talked about previously with Lazy, I'm sorry, that's something actually Liz talked about with Lazy. We don't, as Flak players, have any way of keeping our health up for a consistent period of time. You can get many kills. You got to clean that room, but if you take hits consistently, you're going to go down pretty quickly. And I began to have a big appreciation for my pet rezzing me, because I was taking a knee and I'm like, no, where is pet? And then my pet scampies over and I'm like, we got you. It's fine. And maybe that just makes me a bad player because I'm taking more damage than I probably should. I accept that. That is perfectly fine. But it's just it's not a big complaint at all, because Flak just does clear rooms. But it's just something I noticed. If you wind up taking damage, you probably are going to take a knee faster than any other character in the game. And that's my only sticking point. But you know what? If that's the only complaint I have, I'd rather him stay that way, because at least it gives him some sort of unique trait than like opposed to other Vault Hunters. Because other Vault Hunters, everybody can keep themselves up, but I don't think anybody pulls the numbers like he does. Maybe Amara does. Zane can be consistent, but Flak shoots somebody with a monocle as you're leveling up. Watch everybody in the room explode in a fine mist. It's hilarious.
It's very impressive.
It's so dumb. I love it.
And satisfying.
I love it. Yes.
It's very satisfying.
That's the word. Satisfying.
Well, he really does bring the definition to glass cannon.
Yeah, I was just
Yes.
gonna say that. That's you literally read my mind, Psychotic Wolf. He is the quintessential glass cannon. It's wonderful though.
No.
So
Go ahead.
so Psychotic Wolf, we'd like to know a little bit more about you. Let's get to know you a little bit as a beacon of positivity and off the wall builds in the community. Who are you? How did you come up with your stream name? Tell us a little bit more.
All right. Well, my whole gaming career started with, if you guys want to really find out my age, was Atari and ColecoVision. So that was back in the 80s.
Old school. I like it.
However, when it comes to, the way of min-maxing and the way of sciencing, I will attest that to my career in World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft for 11 years, and I was a priest, and I was actually part of the very hardcore guilds that would really push for endgame content. Like, for those who know World of Warcraft, when it came to vanilla, I was part of the guild that was number 16 to kill the original 4 horsemen in 40-man Nax.
Woo! Woo! That's spicy. That's okay. So to put it in perspective, for those of you who may not know what he just said, what he basically just said is he was in a guild where he was with 39 other people who were the lazy dadas of their time.
Oh my God.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. That's basically what it is, because in the old days, 11 years ago, you had to have people who were so intense about maxing their abilities with their characters to achieve some of the hardest endgame content that was possible. The 4 horsemen were very, very difficult and required very specific mechanical skills and you to have the best and most optimized gear for what you were doing. That's what he just said, for those of you at home.
Thanks for making that plain English, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I know so many of my friends and streamers and just humans in general play WoW, but I just don't know that much about it. I'm sorry. I played Eve. Ask me questions about blowing up spaceships. No problem.
I know. I heard that game was good.
It is.
Well, the fun part about WoW is you can go as hardcore as you want, or you can go as casual as you want, and you can enjoy the game as is. But during my career, I wanted to go as hard as I can. Now, once my guild broke up and I was no longer to raid, of course, I have a beautiful wife of 11 years and a child. She's turning 10 in September. The whole hardcore raiding life just wasn't fitting my current lifestyle. So I moved over and I was playing a lot of Diablo. I was playing a lot of Blizzard games. So I played some Overwatch. I even played, so my wife and I, we started with Borderlands 1. She played Brick. I played Mordecai and we were together. When I was solo, I was a Roland. And then a friend of mine, we picked up Borderlands 2. I went with Axton, sticking with the soldier kind of like theme, which is kind of interesting, which brought me to Moe's. But I didn't even start my Borderlands 3 with Moe's. I actually started with Flak. So coworkers all were playing, and I'm like, you know what? I read Flak. I'm like, I always did the soldier kind of like thing. I'm going to switch things up. So I went Flak, and then all my friends went Flak. And then I'm kind of one of those people. If everybody's doing the same thing, I can't be that person. I got to change things up. So then I moved over to Amara, and then got to Endgame. Enjoyed playing Amara for a bit with my friends. Then my friends decided they no longer wanted to play Borderlands, which I'm like, no, I'm having so much fun. So when it came to Endgame, I was looking up YouTube and I was looking up videos for builds and stuff like that of what she can do and different things I can try. And that led me to Moxie. And found out that he was on Twitch, and I was, a huge advocate of Twitch, especially in the World of Warcraft days. So I went and hung out with him, got myself introduced to the community, absolutely loved it, met a bunch of great people through his community. But then I was playing with all Amaras. And we all came back to the exact same thing where, oh my gosh, I'm playing with the same character in all the game. Oh, I got to switch things up. So then I made the transition over to Moe's. And for anyone who knows Moe's, during the timeline, I started my Moe's when the Hex grenade was her best grenade and she could consistently throw it and it was great. And then once I hit max level, they nerfed it. But I stuck with her the whole way through, and I wanted to learn, and I knew everyone was like, Moe's is the worst character, she is so hard, we don't want to chuck grenades to heal her and all that. So I said, you know what, I made it a goal of mine to be a builder just for Moe's. And the reason being is because I want everyone to enjoy her the way that I do, and you don't have to play her one particular way. So that's why when it comes to my builds, I like to try and make unique anointments or unique interactions that people can be like, oh, that's cool, I want to try that out, and then they do it, and they'll be like, oh my god, I'm playing Mose and I actually like her.
Managed to make her an enjoyable character, especially when she was still struggling. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
even
really cool.
during a content lull, if you want to call it that. That's when I actually found out the interaction of Slam Cannon. And I know on Twitter, like, there was a lot of people like, we need more content, we need more content. And I'm like, I just made Slam Cannon right now. What are you guys talking about?
If I may, I think people forget this. Borderlands 2 had lots of content lulls, if you will. It did. And during that time was when some of the most memorable events and concepts from the Borderlands community ever happened. It created hide and seek, one life. What is it? They don't call it allegiance runs. Thank you. There we go. Allegiance runs. It created the hunt. All of these things were things that the community created during these content lulls. So yeah, it sucks when we're not getting a constant feed, but if you look around, you can find that there's so much left to kind of uncover in the game that you can still peel back the layers and get new sources of enjoyment out of it if you really piece it apart and take the time to figure it out and learn it.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth.
But it's also enjoying the environment. Like if you, I'm a really close friend with Triple G, and he's an advocate to doing things over and over again. And he's like, I never saw this last time. I never saw this 3 times ago. And he's finding all these brand new things. So, play the game again. Take your time. Look around. You'll find stuff that you would never saw before.
Yeah, there's lots of little like hidden cute things that have to do with like gearbox and Easter eggs and just random stuff like that. But also there's just so much detail visually, and there's so much detail just overall in the game. There's so much depth. I'm definitely an eye candy kind of gamer. Like, give me eye candy and I will be the happiest person ever in the world. And that is definitely what this game is for me. It's amazing how many little tiny effects and big, beautiful effects there are all over the place, and little tiny. I mean, the entire game, every single black line that you see in this game is actually hand inked. It's not like a filter that they threw on it or something. It's every single one is hand drawn. How crazy is that? Just the amount of detail that they put into just the art. It's a beautiful game. And I feel like, honestly, there's that much detail in everything in the game. There's so much depth. There's so much math that goes into everything. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And you're right. There's just so much that you can do with it. So you said that you originally started playing Borderlands with your wife. What first attracted you guys to the game? Like, what got you interested?
For me, because, I love my action RPGs, and I also played a lot of first-person shooters. So, back in the day, Unreal Tournament, played a bunch of that. I played a lot of Soldier of Fortune 2. That was also a lot of fun. So by combining the two genres, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I have to try this out. And then on top of that, like watching all the teasers and everything, like the art style, and I'm like, I love the way that this game looks. And let's be honest, from Borderlands 1 to 2 to 3, even the transitions from the art style is absolutely gorgeous, and I love the way they're going with it.
Very cool.
The weapons. We've brought this up a few times, I know, but the weapon sounds from 2 to 3 are like night and day. In 1 and 2, I know some people have said that like weapons kind of sound a little like pop guns and they're a little cartoony and stuff like that. When I think that was one of the first things I noticed when we played in LA over a year ago now. That's how long it's been. You pick up a gun and you kind of like feel its weight. You see it, you see the textures on it. It's beautiful. It's layered. It has depth to it. And then you pull a trigger and it makes a sound that a real gun would sound like it makes. I want to say they went from, I think, who did we talk with? I want to say it was Anthony Nicholson. He said they went from 300 to 800 audio files for all of the guns in Borderlands to like over 5,000 to like 8,000. So like all of these guns are making very unique and distinct sound effects. All of them. Not all of them, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's very rare you will pick up a gun and the gun will sound the same as any other gun in the game.
That's true.
They all have unique sounds to them. Molly 1 weapons, even though they're all charge ups, they sound different. You pick up a Krakatoa, that Krakatoa has a very distinct sound effect when you hear it fire. When you see it fire, you see it, you have it. It's that. You know?
The gun sounds, I think, are part of the satisfaction for me. I tend to play with my dialogue turned off because of the screaming, because I'm not a fan of it. But the gun sounds, I always turn up when I can, because it's just like, I love the punchiness of them. I don't know if that's the right word to describe it, but
the face punchiness of it.
Yeah, like I mean, I feel like that's a big part of what makes you feel that impact that you're making with your weapons and with every single bullet that you shoot, right? That like audible impact that like jars you internally, and it's wonderful, and I just love it. You're absolutely right. There's so many different sounds, and every gun has its own kind of unique twist, and it's glorious.
We talked a little earlier about events. Maybe there are a couple coming. Perhaps we'll get to that at some point. I kind of want to. We can get around to it. But have you, Wolf, participated in any events up until this point? Have you attended any conventions back when conventions were actually able to be a thing in the world?
I have not. I have yet to go to any con in my entire life. I was so looking forward to TwitchCon this year, because my streaming career started in January. So that was like one of the big things that I wanted to go to, is the con. But you know what? I totally understand why it had to be canceled. It's a safety reason. That's super important. We got to make sure that everyone is healthy and everyone is safe. So I'm just going to have to wait another year to see you guys in person.
Damn. May I try to sell you on a gaming community expo in Orlando, Florida, 2021?
Hopefully.
You can send me the details.
Hopefully, yes, of course. But have you participated in any community events as well? Because we can go all the way back, like the Hunt, One Life challenges, anything like that. Just anything at all.
So the interesting thing was, in Borderlands 2, I never really participated in the community, like the online community. It was more just playing playthrough with a friend. Sure. But since I've been with Borderlands 3 and Moxie ran like a Malawan challenge, basically going from 0 gear to M10 and killing Wotan on scaled version. I ran that. That was about 4 hours and a bit and change on Moe's. Professor Hacks, he's another amazing streamer. He did basically a speed Malawan takedown, and you had to kill absolutely every enemies, because we all skip the Ratch at the beginning of Malawan. Nobody kills those guys, but you actually had to kill them all. So I ran through that. He's also Professor Hacks is also running another event right now. I still got to read all the full details on it, and I kept seeing all this stuff about the Hunt, and I'm going, what the heck are these people talking about? So I read up all the rules, and I'm like, you know what? This seems pretty cool, and I can't wait till it happens, because I do want to participate. It's a challenge, and you know what? It broadens, even especially with the Hunt, if you're going to be going against or you have to unlock these specific mobs that have specific drops, and you have to get these. You got to learn how to do that. So it's also it's expanding your knowledge of the game that you might have forgotten in your first playthrough.
Yep, it'll definitely challenge you. It kind of came out of nowhere. I saw, I want to say it was Jolts just talking about the Hunt the other day, and we've been kind of like bandying things back and forth for a little bit. I know everybody's kind of wanted to see the Hunt return. We were hoping that the game would be in a pretty good place, that we could have it be part of the GCX family of marathons that we do for St. Jude every year. But the one issue that was a hang up was designating loot to dedicated drop sources. And I think we're finally to a place where that's going to either happen in the near future or the not too distant future. I don't know for sure, but it seems like that's kind of what they're gunning towards. And to me, that's very exciting, because that's the only thing I think left to put the game where it needs to be, to just blow everything out of the water and captivate people's attention for a very, very long time. So
the interesting thing about the Hunt was they say you have to be streaming it. So I'm like, haha, this is going to be awesome. And then you got to do the clips of your drops for your points. I'm like, this is very well organized. It seems very well organized, and it seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I heard about the hunt for Borderlands 2. I've streamed and played Borderlands 2 forever, but I never participated when it happened. I don't remember why. I think I was too. I think I was when I first started playing Borderlands 2. It was my first shooter, really. The only other one I'd played was Half-Life 1 and 2, which doesn't really count. I was much older. So Borderlands 2 was like my first modern shooter. So I was just so happy to be able to actually hit things. Like I was such a baby in games and streaming and everything that I'd only played Eve for 4.5 years before that, like as my only game. So I just didn't know what I was doing, and I was very, very focused on just being able to stay alive and occasionally hit things with my guns, like sometimes actually kill things. Literally, I would kill something and be like, "Yay, I killed something," and people would make fun of me, rightfully so. But so I wasn't really prepared for the hunt at the time. I think that was the main reason. I'm very excited that it's happening now, because now I've got 6 years of gameplay and shooters and things under my belt. I'm still very excited when I actually kill something, but it happens a little bit more consistently now. So I think I'll actually be able to participate.
Can't do it. The hunt, it's just I love watching everybody else do it. I hope that we can do something maybe here on the channel where we give updates.
That'd be great.
Like I would love to do something where like we do the leaderboard standings every day, and just have it be like in a special edition of the Bordercast where like once a day we bring somebody on who's doing the hunt and have like a live leaderboard or something like that. If that comes to pass, I would love to do something like that, because I think it'd be great for the community to kind of like highlight this event. I don't know. We have to work out the details. We'd have to talk with people and see what they want to do. But it's great. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So what kind of streamer do you see yourself as? Like, do you find yourself to be more educational? Are you more comedic? Are you like super hardcore into stuff? Obviously you play a lot of Borderlands, but do you like, there are PvP games out there too. Like what kind of streamer do you see you, Psychotic Wolf, as?
So as of right now, I'm at the affiliate stage, and I'm really pushing towards partner. And right now, Borderlands is where I'm building my community of a bunch of amazing people. I see all my howls in chat. Thank you very much, everyone. And it's I am an informative kind of streamer when it comes to build making, and I know there's a lot of other content creators out there that if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want to learn about MOs," they go check out Psychotic Wolf. Don't talk to me, kind of like deal. So they do come to me to question about MOs. Also, just general information about the game. But the way that I kind of try and run my stream is I put myself in the viewer's shoes. I'm like, if I'm a viewer watching this streamer, how would I want this streamer to interact with me? And based on that, that's why I'm very interactive with, try to read every message in chat. I also say if things go disappear, I'm like, if it's important you want me to know, make sure to copy and paste it. I'm cool with that. But it's a matter of just, being friendly, being kind, because, in this world, there's a lot of negativity and it's easy to find. But if you can spend your time and look for the positivity, I give that platform to come out, hang out. And if you have a bad day, come hang out with the pack. We'll uplift you. There's not a problem there.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah, especially right now with the world being so crazy, people need places to go and chill and be uplifted and be kind of among friends, sharing common interests and things like that. So I think Borderlands community in general is so positive. And I don't think it's just because there's no PvP in the game, really, because there are duels and they can get kind of crazy sometimes. But I also just think it's just a good community. There's so many people just willing to help you out and willing to kind of share builds, share items, and just, be friends. And it's really, really, really cool. I love seeing that. I love hearing that. I love going into streams like that.
But I think too, like if you have a bad day, helping another person out can actually turn your day like complete 180. Like there's people that are like, I had a bad day and we raided somebody and we helped them get their 50 followers and they're so happy on their stream. They see so happy. You cannot just feel positive about that whole entire situation. So, it's a give and take. But that's one thing that I breed is nothing but positivity and help each other, because that's how we grow.
Yeah, that's
reminds me of the old days. Yeah. It reminds me so much. I hate to sound like date myself here and talk about how things were back in the day, but like you and Moxie and Thick and Triple G and everybody coming up right now, Tweety, all of you guys remind me of what myself and Goth, Baru, all of us were Broman, what we were all like then, Smikers, how we helped each uplifted each other. We tried to be positive forces in the community. We put out YouTube content. We rated each other. We rated other people. We tried to build everything up as we went along. And now I see this new generation of streamers like you, Wolf, and everybody else that I listed just before now. Harfmill, like he's another one. Everybody is lifting everybody up, and they're doing so with genuine interest. They realize that a rising tide raises all ships, and it's so beautiful to see. I love it. I love watching this community grow. It almost brings a tear to my eyes sometimes, because it's nice to see that with the advent of Borderlands 3, as this game continues to grow, that the community is growing along with it, and it's doing so in the best possible way. You guys are just killing it. You really are. I'm gonna cry.
But you know what the irony is?
What?
We're building a community of positivity, yet we play a game that we kill people all the time.
Very true.
It's just pixels. It's just pixels that explode pretty. It's all good.
Oh man.
It's such a good game.
So before we move on, because I do want to talk about Paul Tassi's article, who are some of your streaming influences as you got started? Because you did mention Moxie quite a bit. So obviously, I imagine you probably want to talk about him for a few. But obviously, after that, who else?
Actually, Vanderforge. He's the one that actually found out that I used to stream World of Warcraft, and I didn't stream too long, because at the time I streamed for probably about a few weeks, and then my family and I we originally lived in Ontario, Canada, and we moved out west to British Columbia, and that whole move really affected the family and stirred stuff up. So I couldn't really jump back into the streaming. But then when Vanderforge found out, and by the way, if he listens, he gets insulted when I say his name, Vanderforge. It's Jordan. But he's like, so you used to stream? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, why don't you now? I'm like, because I never thought about it. He's like, just open up your OBS, hit the go live button, let's do it. And ever since that day, he supported me on my first. He sent the Vanderforge, the whole community, my way. And it grew from then on. And yeah, Moxie has been a huge help with, thinking outside of the box. A lot of the quirky little things that come with builds, I'm inspired by his streams. Triple G's in there. He's been a very close friend of mine now. We hang out like every night after chat. We're playing Diablo 3 off stream together. It's a really good time. I see Thick in chat. I hang out in Thick's because he's also another man that thinks outside of the box. And, I go into those different chats and those different builders because there's nuggets that you can pick up that you can apply to your game as well. They're there. You just got to look for them. And these amazing people providing the streams to give us that information and also enhance our gameplay is an absolute phenomenal thing to have. And of course, I look the way that I also run my stream. I always look at the successful people, because the successful people are doing the right things, and you don't have to do the exact same thing that they're doing, but if you do something similar, you can nothing but become successful.
Mm-hmm. So you've never watched my stream before?
Just on the Borderlands channel. Good job.
That's the only place he streams these days, so that counts.
That's true. I'll take it. That's perfectly fun. I'm sorry. I've got a few things that I have to do off stream. I do miss streaming every now and again, though.
You do,
boy. Yeah, I do. when I get a chance. All right. So Paul Tassi wrote a fairly compelling article on pearlescence. And I would be remiss if I didn't address this a little bit, because it comes up all the time. People come in when I'm live on the Borderlands channel and they say, hey, Mitsu, what do you think about pearlescence coming and being in Borderlands 3 again? Should they be in the game? Should they be implemented? How would we go about doing so? And I wanted to open up this conversation. I think Wolf, you'll be a great guest to have on this one. Tess, I love to hear your feedback on it as well.
Sure.
But it's just, I'll put it this way. I'll start reading the article a little bit. While Borderlands 3 kept many aspects of the game the same from past installments, some changes that it has made have been radical, and not like making any new Vault Hunters in the DLCs. So far, we've only seen some other changes too. There's no endgame invincible raid bosses as of yet, although we do have invincibles, just not in the way that we're used to. In Borderlands 2, where invincibles where go here, spend some iridium, kill this boss, do it over again. And that's a whole separate discussion too, because the community has been asking for that. Another day. No pearlescent weapon. So Paul says he found himself thinking about pearlescent weapons. Can they be in the game? What will they add to the game? And the problem is right now, first of all, if you're going to do pearlescence, do pearlescence have anointments? And because you have to remember here, a lot of Endgame's current gameplay loop feeds back into having really powerful anointments. And pearlescence have to be very, very strong if you want people to go for them, because if you can't justify the rarity, people don't care. That's why people went after the Butcher, and why they went after the Tunguska, because they wanted to troll their friends, not because the Tunguska was particularly strong. Let's be honest here. We're gonna put all our cards on the table. The Avenger was very good. There were a couple others. You could kind of make the I think it was the Bearcat work a little bit too. But outside of that, there really weren't. Or maybe it was a Sawwalk. I don't remember. Maybe it was both. Anyway, point is, there were pearlescents out there. Most of them couldn't be justified, but they were fun little guns. But if you want them in Borderlands 3 to be efficient, you either have to make them so strong that anointments just get negated completely. And think of all the math that would go in. Well, if you're a man of math, what do you think it would take for them to be able to implement the power in a pearlescent to make up for the fact that, for example, Zane wouldn't have 100% bonus cryo damage without Sentinel? Multiplicative, I believe that is too.
Right, that's a really tough thing to go down the road, because in the end, there is a cap at our difficulty right now. And I think where some of the guns are right now with the anointments, for example, myself, like Slam Cannon, like I'm going through True Takedown, the Guardian Takedown, and I'm completing it, and it's not a huge challenge. But I'm also aware there are people out there that can't do that. So I am a special kind of breed when it comes to that. So can pearlescence help them? I'm sure it can. But if I'm to ever use a pearlescence weapon, I would like to have something maybe implemented where there's no cap of difficulty. Like, I know everyone disliked the Guardian Takedown when it first came out because of the bullet sponges. Okay. But I would like that to come back, because not only does that help me gauge where my builds are at, but it also helps me try to push forward and get stronger.
So I personally hate bullet sponginess. To me, it's not satisfying to like sit there and shoot a single enemy for a really, really long time. I would rather have more enemies, right? And I've heard what you're asking be asked for before by a lot of the hardcore players, but I don't know if we've ever had that opportunity where there are just more enemies as opposed to bullet spongier enemies. Would you like to see in the game either more like a difficulty slider beyond Mayhem, that, or like separate from Mayhem and the modifiers, that just scaled up the health and armor and shields of enemies, and or increase the numbers of enemies up to some, like just a slider like that, like maybe two sliders separate from Mayhem or something like that? Is that what you're asking for, basically?
Yeah. So let's take an example. So right now, one of the big things that a lot of the Borderlands community actually is playing is Diablo 3. And they have this little aspect called the Greater Rift system. And the Greater Rift system actually challenges you on your build, and you get this key. And then when you beat it within the time limit, you can increase the difficulty and you can get on the leaderboards and something like that. Like, I would love to have that implemented inside of Borderlands. Like, say if you do a timed Malawan takedown or a timed Guardian takedown, or maybe something else that they introduced that don't have an actual difficulty cap. You can increase their health, their shields, or the amount of mobs that are all coming at me I can really see how far I can go.
I love this idea. I love this idea a lot. This is so yeah, I played Diablo 3 as well. Greater Rift systems are fascinating, and it never feels like you are forced to do a Greater Rift system. So somebody who wants to just try and push themselves and is still not at that like ultra hardcore level will probably do pretty well with it. And you can take that and bring it to the Borderlands system, because you're absolutely right. Iridian, what is it? The Proving Grounds. Proving Grounds can be utilized for this purpose. Mr. Torgs of Slaughters can be used for this purpose, and that provides infinite replayability. Infinite. Because I could find myself going tomorrow to Diablo, working my way through everything, leveling up, and then going and doing that. And I think Borderlands is in such a good place right now that lends itself to it as well. But what that would also mean, and I think you would agree with this, Wolf, and this is something I've been advocating for some time, is you need to make it easier to get Guardian rank points, and then take those Guardian rank points and have them be meaningful percentages when you put them in. Because as it stands right now, once you get to about 10% in any one buffed ability skill, or whatever you want to call it, then the diminishing returns are so awful that you don't want to put points in there anymore. You give up. So it becomes this fruitless endeavor. But if you uncap it, you make it a more simplistic points-based system and give it flat percentage increases, and then do exactly what you're talking about with the Greater Rift system and bring that to Borderlands and maybe call it the Guardian Rift system. Sure, why not? Don't care. You're absolutely right. That would be the end around, where you could have people who might not want bullet sponges and still have them be challenged or challenged up to a point. And then you can have people who are just face to wall and you want to go all the way in. And you know what? We can take this one step further. I see people in chat. I've seen people in chat on my sponsor streams all the time when I'm on live on the Borderlands channel, and they say, we hate modifiers. We can't stand them. What does Diablo 3 do with the modifiers? They're only on bosses.
Yep.
Exactly. And that means that when you get to a certain hard enemy, that's the only thing you're going to have to fight that has all of these things implemented. And that feels more fair than every single enemy getting buddy system or every single enemy getting freeze tag. And I'm not saying I don't like the system now, because I actually do like the system as it is now. But if we want to kind of like edge more towards this more focused system, this is how you would have to go about doing it. And I think it would work. I think it would be great in Borderlands.
Yeah, I agree. I would really like to see an option for more enemies as opposed to bullet spongier enemies, or in addition to bullet spongier enemies, because there are a lot of people that really like that kind of challenge. I just personally, I feel like, and I'm definitely not alone in this, because anytime I bring it up, the entire Borderlands chat, my entire channel chat right now is like, yes, is just having more enemies instead of harder enemies, because it's so much more satisfying when you can like pop forever enemies, as opposed to just shooting one guy and shooting the same guy and then shooting it's just like, it drives me crazy. Bullet spongy enemies are to me, they're not fun. Like, they're only fun if I can meet that challenge with some kind of totally ridiculous build, but even then it just takes too long, Right. So it's like a different kind of time sink. And I think both of those things are difficulty in the same kind of way, right? Because technically, like, if you have 10 enemies with 100 health each, or you have one enemy with 1,000 health, you're basically spending the same amount of time in that space, right? Either shooting one thing or shooting 10 things. But it's just more satisfying when you shoot 10 things and they all die in that 10 minutes or however long it takes you. Hopefully not 10 minutes. And so I would like that as a difficulty modifier that we could adjust, But yeah, I definitely think locations in the game specific to the truly hardcore among us, like Psychotic Wolf and all of you guys hanging in chat that really, really want sort of like a greater challenge, like a greater rift.
The only concern that I would have about adding more mobs into something like that is I'm going to defend my console friends here. They're already struggling right now when it comes to the console and the hardware. If we start adding a bunch more mobs into that, they're going to be crashing a lot more than they currently are.
Well, this is the thing that I think, you know, just like having a lot of crazy effects and having higher difficulty and things like that, like these should be optional, right? So these are not things that should be required to get loot, to get whatever, like, because I think what happened with the takedown when it first came out, Guardian Takedown, it was at such a high difficulty, and there was loot behind that difficulty that people really, really, really wanted. Right now, the only thing that we have that doesn't exclude people from getting something, but that offers that kind of greater challenge that people like you were looking for, people like even me trying to get better at the game are looking for, is True Takedown, right? There's no loot locked behind True Takedown, and I don't think there should be, because what will happen is the people that can't do that, can't get that loot, are going to be butthurt, and they're going to be screaming, and, you know, Gearbox will be like, okay, we'll lower the difficulty, and then we'll be right in the same spot, right? Because there's a lot of people like that. I mean, realistically, my own personal build that my own Amara that I've been working on this whole time she's good, but she's not, you know, Psychotic Wolf good, or Triple G good, or Moxie good, or Lazy Data good. She's just not. I love her. She's amazing. But like, if I'm gonna try to do True Takedown solo, I'm gonna take Lazy Samara into it, or Triple G's or whatever, you know. So that's just the reality. And like, you can always, as a player, go into a YouTube channel of one of the creators and download their save file and try it for yourself. And it's a wonderful feeling to be able to do that and use that build, just to try it out. But it's more satisfying to make that build yourself, right? Even if you're following their items and their skills exactly, it's amazing if you can earn those things, you know? And for some people, it's just really, really, really hard to do that. So, you know, I feel like if they don't lock loot behind those greater challenges, whether it be more enemies or much more health, shields, armor, all that stuff for those enemies, then those activities or those choices that people can make, whether it be more enemies or higher health, can be made by the people that are truly, truly hardcore, and they have the option, right? More health, more enemies, whatever, and nobody is forced, or nobody feels forced to play content that either they don't want to do because it's not fun for them, or their machines can't handle because it's just the nature of technology. Not all technology is capable of it, and this game is just so graphics intensive and so beautiful, and I would not want them to tone it down or anything like that, but it's just the reality of aging, especially console hardware. So nobody would feel like they're left out because there's no loot back there, you know. It's just a greater challenge. And there's an alternative with higher health. So that would be my solution.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Don't put loot behind it. Maybe give me more XP. Maybe give me more Guardian ranks quicker. Yeah. That's maybe about it, right?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. That would be a good route for actually getting Guardian ranks more quickly, and maybe, especially if they made the adjustment that Mitsu made mention of, making Guardian rank more worth it past that kind of diminishing returns point.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, don't mind me during that whole thing, and I was actively listening. I'm sorry, I haven't seen King Gathalion in forever, and he's in chat right now for those of you over on Twitch and those of you over on YouTube. So I get to see my buddy for a little bit, so I'm very happy. And for those of you listening, you're probably a little lost on you, but I would hope that you at least know who King Gathalion is. We literally talked about him a little while ago when we were talking about the things. So sorry, I'm like all over the place. I miss my bud very much. Wow, we kind of like went in a place with that because we wound up working from Pearlescence onto kind of like general endgame stuff. And just, I don't know where Pearlescent really fits in, because what is it? Tassie's other option was you make Pearlescent weapons more common than they were in the last two games, but then they're not Pearlescence anymore. it doesn't have that special feeling. You see, it's like legendaries right now, and I love legendaries. As they are right now, I enjoy seeing that loop of them showing up a lot more often than they did previously, and it feels like you can get them on average a lot faster. Like I was able to actually get a couple Hell Shocks today while I was farming Gigamind, and that felt great. It felt like, and when I got it, I was able to bump myself up from my Mayhem 1 right to Mayhem 6, and then that Mayhem 6 Hell Shock dropped, and I went right to Mayhem 10. And that progression felt really good. Not everybody is comfortable or capable of it, but that's okay too. And I was also playing Flack, who, like we talked about earlier, is just absolutely destroying everything, which is wonderful. But I don't know where pearlescents fit in. I think with the anointment system, there really isn't a home for it right now, unless you, like we said before, make them so overwhelmingly strong that they are a counterweight for anointments, which when you think about it might actually be kind of a good thing, because one of the problems that the community has right now is that anointments can be so fickle, and now there's so many anointments in the game. Some people just kind of want to like forego it altogether. And if there was an option for you to be able to do so via pearlescent weapons, at least make them competitive, that would probably be the best way to go about doing it. That's just how I feel about it. So
I feel like they would have to, and he made mention of this in the article. They'd have to be strong enough to make the anointment not matter, right? So like the strongest anointment in the game right now, I believe there's 2 either consecutive hits or the 200% damage buff, right? Mm-hmm. So just make pearlescents have a 200% damage buff from the start, you know, at least, and that be the beginning of what makes that a pearlescent, right? Take the best like 5 anointments or something that exist and make that just a part of the gun, and then it's ridiculously overpowered, but you have to do Guardian takedown on Mayhem 10 to get it or something, you know? And then like Guardian 10 on Mayhem 10 is Guardian takedown on Mayhem 10 is accessible to everyone. I'm sorry, English. Not my first language, but still I am better at it most of the time. Anyway, I feel like that would make it both worth it to farm Guardian takedown at Mayhem 10 for people, because that's a significant time sink for most people with their builds, and they're using a crazy OP build. But it's a significant time sink, and it's rewarded appropriately, I think, with a crazy gun like that, because then it'll also make it easier to get more of them. Yes. Either that or have some kind of system, and this has been asked for before, and I don't know if it's possible. But if it was possible, it would be cool if there was some way to re-roll anointments, at least on pearlescents, if they were going to be in the game. You know, so if you get the gun and it doesn't have the anointment you want, then you can go to Sanctuary and spend iridium on re-rolling that anointment however many times you need to get the anointment on the pearlescent that you want. Because like the likelihood, the RNG of just getting the pearlescent to drop should be and hopefully will be and was in Borderlands 2, like it's very, very, very rare. And it should be rare, because if it's not rare, then you don't get that like, oh, pearlescent, you know, feeling, that satisfaction of when it actually drops. It should feel special. It should feel very uncommon. Should be very uncommon.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that one. When a pearlescent drops, you know, and every here's what's nice about Borderlands 3. Every drop has a different sound for it. I would love to hear that sound when a pearlescent dropped, and see what kind of icon and the color that they would use for the icon in the mini map too. Just to like up there, like, you know what, it like the little circle and everything. I would love to see that. That'd be amazing. Maybe a circle with a check mark instead of a star. I don't know. I can't think of it. I'll leave you with this. Paul Tassi said this, and then we'll I do want to discuss a little bit of Endgame. I know we're running a little bit long, but we have Wolf here, and I know he's got some thoughts on it, and then we'll probably wrap up with that. But Paul Tessie ends with, I do think Gearbox will give us pearlescent weapons eventually. I'm kind of on the fence about that. We'll see. You don't have those for 2 games and then ditch them for the most played iteration of your game. And I'll say this much, pearlescents weren't in the base game of Borderlands 1 either, and kind of felt like an afterthought that they threw to encourage people to go farm Cromharak. So I don't know if that quite applies to Borderlands 1 either. But it will somewhat be tricky to roll them out given the issues that he has mentioned. So he's curious to see what form they will take if they do arrive. He's not expecting to hear anything about them anytime soon, and we've seen nothing data mined to indicate that their arrival is imminent from what can be told right now. So stay tuned. And I think that that's probably about where we're at with that one.
Yeah, all of this is speculation. Like I don't, and we don't know if any of it is possible. We don't know if it's planned. We don't know if it's possible. It's just speculation and conjecture. We're just kind of talking about our dreams and hopes
and wishes.
Yeah.
And so pearlescents kind of feed into this next part that I wanted to bring up real quick before we end today's show. And that is Endgame. We talked a little bit about Endgame last week, and we talked about what Endgame actually is, I guess on like the prima facie level. But I really wanted to dig a little bit harder into what Endgame really is to people. Is it farming? Is it boss fighting? Is it trying to play the game in unique ways? There are so many different ways that people can experience and enjoy Borderlands 3 right now that I want to try and get a sense for what you, Tess, you, Wolf, everybody in chat on both YouTube and Twitch right here, right now. I want to get a sense of where everybody feels their end game is at, what they like to do the most once you've leveled and once you've begun that Mayhem climb, whether it's just doing things at Mayhem 10, whether it's just doing things at Mayhem 0, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. What is it that you do that makes your end game content work? Wolf, tell me.
So my end game content is pretty simple. It's the hardest thing in the game. So right now when I'm making builds, I'm very stingy when it comes to if it's a successful build or not. But I'm actually at the point, I'm toning it down a bit. But before I toned it down, it was like, if this build cannot do solo Guardian takedown, it's not a complete build. However, I do have a few builds that a lot of my community really enjoy, and it's done scaled Guardian takedown. And they're like, you know what, we would like to get a video of it. So, and they want to play it. So I'm okay with that. But for me, endgame is always conquering the hardest difficulty. And even if you're, you know, so to say, banging your head on the wall because, you know, it's that difficult, to me, the end game is also thinking outside of the box. Because if, for example, when the Guardian takedown first came out and there was bullet sponges and everyone was complaining, I'm like, well, guys, stop complaining and try and think outside of the box. There has to be something that we haven't thought about yet that will help us complete this takedown.
I think this is a very good answer. That's kind of the answer that I would expect from you. It's a very outside the box answer. It's very abstract. It's okay, now we've gotten this far. Let's see where we can take the game beyond what might have been intended by the developers. How do we break this?
Exactly.
There's definitely a large number of people, I think, that actually are like that. People that like to speed run, people that like to kind of find ways to meet the greatest possible challenge that the game can present them with. Find interesting ways to do that, and it's very interesting to watch people like you come up with these things and do these things, and also to try your builds, which is basically what I've been doing lately. I've been picking up builds from all of the content creators that put them out there, either from Ultimate Vault Hunter, mostly from Ultimate Vault Hunter, but also just from people, you know, throwing builds at me like Triple G, who's awesome, and others. And I really enjoyed getting to know characters and getting to know guns and getting to know builds and ways of playing the game that I wouldn't necessarily have thought to try through these builds and exploring sort of ground I may have covered before. But every time you play through any content in this game, I feel like it's really easy to discover things you didn't notice before. There's so much depth to it. So everywhere you go, there's like little tidbits and little things that you discover. And especially when you're playing a build you're not used to, it can be very interesting. So to me, it's a little bit of that, a little bit of trying to do harder and harder content, of course. Things that are a challenge for me, which for me is not that hard. Everything is a challenge for me. So it's not that hard to find a challenge. And also helping newer players. There's a ton of people that I feel like, not that they slept on Borderlands or anything, but that they just haven't had the same amount of time that we, especially as streamers, maybe have to play the game. And so, like, I have multiple max level end game characters now, even more than I did before. And I have some mods and some friends in my community that, haven't quite finished this DLC or that DLC or even the main game. And it's been really, really, really fun to kind of go with them along on their journey to just enjoy it and have fun. And like, it's kind of like experiencing everything through fresh eyes, even though they're not your own. And it's really, really been great to do that. So to me, that's Endgame. I feel like the end game in this game is so varied. There's so many aspects of it. There's a lot of depth to Endgame and a lot of options, which is great.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because that actually segues into what I wanted to do now, which is read off a couple of our responses in the Twitch chat right now, which I'm currently looking at. What is Endgame? Thick-Fillet, for example, says it's raid bosses. Sandman XLII. I'm not good at Roman. So what is that? 17? No. 40. No. XL. L is 50. So that's 42. Sandman 42. I got there. That's good. 42 also. Answer of life, the universe, and everything. Farming for perfect rolls. Very good. BZK25 says start over as a one life. Dante Shadow Roads. Be able to run around and experience different builds and weapons. Have everything be vile. Mrs. Wolf, I think Psychotic Wolf might know that particular person. Endgame is replaying the story with new characters. McLabinski says side missions and story. So you notice how some of those answers have a little bit of overlap, but others have completely different ideas as to what Endgame is to them. Endgame is raid bosses and takedowns. Endgame is min-maxing Commander Keen. All of them are viable answers. It is what you make of it, and that's the most important thing. Bane Falcon. I love this one. Endgame is finding everyone that needs a lob to their face and to hear the good word of Mr. Torg.
I like that.
Bane.
I like that.
That's it. That's where it needs to end right there. You can't top that one. Oh man, see? It is what you make of it. And this game provides many unique opportunities to make Endgame your own, and it will only get better from here.
Agreed.
That's it.
Agreed.
All I got.
Yep.
Oh boy. All right. Bounty Blood. That right now. You should go play it. It's really good. Especially McSmugger. Trust me, once you do that. Oh, and Beans. Both of those, once you do them, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Guardian Takedown, still waiting to challenge players. If you haven't already, make sure that you do so. It's a lot of fun. We had no hot fixes this week, which means I would anticipate a pretty big heckin' patch to land this coming week or next week. We'll see what happens and we'll see what it contains, because honestly, I don't friggin' know. Borderlands Legendary Collection is out right now on the Nintendo Switch. Guess what I'm doing after this show? It's the same thing as I do after every show. So much Borderlands. Psychotic Wolf, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on my stream at twitch.tv/psychotic_wolf or on Twitter at P_wolf82.
Nice. I think we have that somewhere around here. That way?
Yeah,
this way?
That way.
This
There
way?
you go.
No. Okay. So I think I go this way.
Nope,
Yes.
wrong way.
I'll never get that right.
It's okay.
Speaking of directions, tell where they find you.
I'm around at twitch.tv/Borderlands a lot. Also, twitch.tv/Tessachka. It's just Tessa, CHKA. Tess Games on Twitter and Instagram.
Indeed. As for myself, twitch.tv/Mitsu. Yes, I managed to finally get it. MITSU, as well as Twitter, twitter.com/Mitsu Show, MITSUSHOW. I do my best work on Twitter, even though I don't tweet as much as I used to. I'm not as much of a firebrand these days. Makes me kind of sad, but it's probably also for the best. All right.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Seriously, we super, super, super appreciate you all. Thank you for listening. If you're doing it via any of the podcast services, you can find us if you'd like to listen to us on the podcast form. Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, Google Music, and Stitcher. And of course, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Steam. I think that's all of them. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific.
Indeed. I will be reporting live from the Great White North next week, where I will finally get to see my wife after 8 months of being separated because the border was closed. So hopefully I will be here. If not, we're going to figure out a couple chairs to sit in just in case. I think there'll be some very familiar faces. But if I don't get to see you guys next week, which I'm still hoping that I will, be good. Be good for everybody. And I love you all. On behalf of Tess, myself, the entire stream team, what's to come with that particular team, thank you so much for joining us as you do every single week. Now go forth and make some mayhem.